My name is Joy. My student number is SO441015, and I'm a freshman. I'm going to deliver the speech titled "A Broken Body Isn't a Broken Person." Life is about opportunities, creating them and embracing them. And for me, that was the Olympic dream. That's what defined me. That was my bliss. As a cross-country skier and member of the Australian ski team, head toward the Winter Olympics, I was on a training bike ride with my fellow teammates. As we made our way toward the spectacular Blue Mountain west of Sydney, it was the perfect autumn day, sunshine, the smell of eucalyptus, and a dream. Life was good. We had been on our bike for around 5.5 hours when we got to the part of the ride that I loved, and that was the hills, because I loved the hill, and I got out of the seat of my bike, and I started pumping my legs, and as I sat in the cold autumn mountain air, I could feel it burning my lungs, and I looked up to see the sun shining in my face. And then everything went black. Where was I? What was happening? My body was consumed by pain. I had been hit by a speeding utility truck with only 10 minutes to go on the bike ride. I was airlifted from the scene of the accident by a rescue helicopter to a large spinal unit in Sydney. I had extensive and life-threatening injuries. I had broken my neck and my back in 6 places. I broke 5 ribs on my left side. I broke my right arm. I broke my collarbone. I broke some bones in my feet. My whole right side was ripped open, filled with gravel. My head was cut open across the floor, left back, exposing the skull underneath. I had head injury. I had internal injuries. I had massive blood loss. In fact, I lost about 5 liters of blood, which is someone my size would actually hope. By the time the helicopter arrived at Prince Henry Hospital in Sydney, my blood pressure was 40 over nothing. I was having a really bad day. For over 10 days, I drifted between two dimensions. I had awareness of being in my body, but also being out of my body, somewhere else, watching from above as if it was happening to someone else. What would I want to go back to a body that was so broken? But this voice kept calling me, "Come on, stay with me. No, it's too hard. Come on, this is our opportunity." No, the body is broken. It can no longer serve me. Come on, stay with me. We can do it. We can do it together. I was at a crossroad. I knew if I didn't return to my body, I would have to leave this world forever. It was the fight of my life. After 10 days, I made a decision to return to my body, and the internal bleeding stopped. The next concern was whether I would walk again, because I was paralyzed from the waist down. They said to my parents the neck break was a stable fracture, but the back was completely crushed. The vertebra and L1 was that you dropped a peanut, stepped on it, smashed it into thousands of pieces. They had to operate. They went in. They put me on a beanbag. They cut me, literally cut me in half. I had a scar that wrapped around my entire body. They picked as much broken bone as they could that had lodged in my spinal cord. They took out 2 of my broken ribs, and they rebuilt my back. L1, they rebuilt it. They took out another broken rib, and they fused T12, L1 and L2 together. Then they stitched me up. They took an entire hour to stitch me up. I worked in intensive care. And the doctor was really excited that the operation had been a success because at that stage I had a little bit of movement in one of my big toes, and I do great because I'm going to the Olympics. I had no idea. That's the sort of thing that happened to someone else, not me, surely. But then the doctor came over to me, and she said, Jenny, the operation was a success, and we had picked as much bone off of your spinal as we could, but the damage is permanent. The central nervous system nerve. There is no cure. You are what we call a partial paraplegic, and you will have all of the injury that go along with that. You have no feeling from the waist down, and at most you might get 10 or 20% return. You will have internal injury for the rest of your life. You will have to use a catheter for the rest of your life. And if you walk again, it will be with caliper and a working friend. And then she said, Jenny, you have to rethink everything you do in your life, because you are never going to be able to do the things you did before. I tried to grasp what she was saying. I was an athlete. That's all I knew. That's all I would do. If I couldn't do that, then what could I do? And the question I ask myself is, if I couldn't do that, then who was I? They moved me from intensive care to acute spinal. I was laying on a thin, hard spinal bed. I had no movement in my legs. I had tied stocking on to protect from blood clot. I had one arm in plaster, one arm tied down by drip. I had a neck brace and sandbag on either side of my head, and I saw my world through a mirror that was suspended above my head. I shared the world with 5 other people, and the amazing thing is that because we were all lying paralyzed in a spinal world, we didn't know what each other looked like. How amazing is that? I, how often in life do you get to make friendship judgment-free, purely based on spirit? And there were no superficial conversation as we shared our innermost thoughts, our fears, and our hope for life after this spinal world. I remember one night, one of the nurses came in, Jonathan, with a lot of plastic straw. He put a pile on top of each us, and he said, start threading them together. Well, there wasn't much much else to do in the spinal world, so we did, and when we finished, he went around silently and he joined all of the straw up till it looped around the whole world. And then he said, okay, everybody, hold on to your straw. And we did, and he said, right, now we were all connected. And as we held on, and we breathed as one, we knew we wasn't on this journey alone. And even lying paralyzed in the spinal world, there were moments of incredible depth and richness, of authenticity and connection that I had never experienced before. And each of us knew that when we left the spinal world, we would never be the same. After 6 months, it was time to go home. I remember Dad pushing me outside in my wheelchair, wrapped in a plastic body cast, and feeling the sun on my face for the first time. I sucked it up and I thought, how could I ever have taken this for granted? I felt so incredibly grateful for my life. But before I left the hospital, the head nurse had said to me, Jenny, I want you to be ready, because when you get home, something's going to happen. And I said, what? And she said, you are going to get depressed. And I said, not me, not Janine the Bushy, which was my nickname. She said, you are, because, see, it happens to everyone in the spinal world. That's normal. You are in a wheelchair, that's normal, but you are going to get home and realize how different life is. And I got home and something happened. I realized Sister Sen was right. I did get depressed. I was in my wheelchair. I had no feeling from the waist down. Attached to a cassia bottle. I couldn't walk. I lost so much weight in the hospital. I now weigh about 80 pounds. And I want to get up. All I want to do was to put my running shoes on and run out the door. I want my old life back. I want my body back. And I can remember Mom sitting on the end of my bed and saying, I wonder if life will ever be good again. And I thought, how could it? Because I had lost everything that I value, everything that I worked toward, gone. And the question I asked was, why me? Why me? And then I remember my friend that was still in the spinal ward, particularly Maria. Maria was in a car accident and she walked out on her 16th birthday to the news that she was a complete quadriplegic, had no movement from the neck down, had damage to her vocal cord, and she couldn't talk. They told me, we are going to move you next to her because we think it will be good for her. I was worried. I didn't know how I react to being next to her. I knew it would be challenging, but it was actually a blessing because Maria always smiled. She was always happy, and even when she began to talk again, albeit difficult to understand, she never complained, not once, and I wonder how I should ever found that the level of acceptance. And I realized that this wasn't just my life, it was life itself. I realized that this wasn't just my pain, it was everybody's pain. And then I knew, just like before, that I had a choice. I could keep fighting this for, or I could let go and accept not only my body but the circumstance of my life. And then I started asking, why me? And I started to ask, why not me? And then I thought to myself, maybe being an rock bottom is actually the perfect place to start. I had never before thought of myself as a creative person. I was an athlete. My body was a machine, but now I was about to embark on the most creative project that any of us could ever do. That's all rebuilding a life. And even though I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do, in the uncertainty came a sense of freedom. I was no longer tied to a set path. I was free to explore life's infinite possibilities, and the realization was about to change my life. Sitting at home in my wheelchair and my plaster body cast, an airplane flew overhead, and I looked up, and I thought to myself, that's it, if I can walk, then I might as well fly. I said, Mom, I'm going to learn how to fly. She said last night there. I said, pass me the yellow pages. She passed me the phone book. I ran at the flying school. I made a booking. Said I would like to make a booking to come out for a fly. They said, when do you want to come out? I said, well, I had to get a friend to drive me out because I can't fly, so I can't walk either. Is that a problem? I made a booking, and weeks later my friend Chris and my mom drove me out to the airport. All 18 pounds of me covered in a plaster body cast in a baggy pair of the overall. I can tell you, I did not look like the ideal candidate to get a pilot's license. I'm holding to a counter because I can't stand. I say hi, I'm here for a flying lesson, and led to one look and ran out of bed to draw short straw. You get her? No, you take her. Finally this guy comes out. He goes, "Hi, I'm Andrew, and I'm going to take you flying." I go, "Great." And so they drive me down, they get me out of the tarmac, and there was this red, white, and blue airplane. It was beautiful. They left me into the cockpit. They had to slide me out on the wing, put me in the cockpit. They set me down. There are buttons and dials everywhere. I'm going, "Wow, how do you ever know what all these buttons and dials do?" Andrew, the instructor, got in the front, started the airplane up. He said, "Would you like to have a go at testing? That's when you use your feet to control the rudder pedal to control the airplane on the ground." I said, "No, I can use my leg." He went, "Oh," I said, "but I can use my head." And he said, "Okay." So it got over to the runway, and he applied the power, and a swing took off down the runway, and the wheel left out of the tarmac, and we became airborne. I had the most incredible sense of freedom. And Andrew said to me as we got over the training area, "You see the mountain over there?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you take the control, and you fly toward the mountains." And as I looked up, I realized that he was pointing toward the Blue Mountains where the journey had begun. And I had to the controls, and I was flying. I was a long, long way from the spinal world, and I knew right then that I was going to be a pilot. Didn't know how on earth I'd never ever passed a medical, but I worried about that later because right now I had a dream. So I went home, I got a training diary off, and I had a plan, and I practiced my walking as much as I could. I went from the point of two people holding me up to one person holding me up to the point where I could walk around the furniture as long as it wasn't too far apart. And then I made great progression to the point where I could walk around the house, holding onto the wall like this. And Mom said she was forever following me, whipping out my fingerprint, but at least she always knew where I was. So while the doctor continued to operate and put my body back together again, I went on with my theory study, and then eventually and amazingly, I passed my pilot's medical, and that was my green light to fly, and I spent every moment I could out in the flying school, out of my comfort zone. All these young guys that wanted to be Quentin's pilot, all little up hop along me in first my plaster cast, and then my steel breast and my baggy overall, my bed of medication and catheter and my limbs. And they used to look at me and think, "Oh, who is she kidding? She's never going to be able to do this." And sometimes I thought that too, but that didn't matter, because now there was something inside that burned that far away my injuries. And little girls kept me going along that way, and eventually I got my private pilot license. And then I learned to navigate, and I flew my friend around Australia. And then I learned to fly an airplane with two engines and got my twin engine rating. And then I learned to fly in bad weather as well as fine weather and got my instrument rating. And then I got my commercial pilot's license. And then I got my instructor rating. And then I found myself back in the same school where I had gone for the very first flight, teaching other people how to fly just under 18 months after I had left this spinal world. And then I thought, why stop there? Why not learn to fly upside down? And I did. And I learned to fly upside down and became an aerobatic flying instructor. And Mom and Dad never been up. But then I knew for certain that although my body might be limited, it was my spirit that was unstoppable. The philosopher Lao Tzu once says, "When you let go of what you are, you become what you might be." I now know that it wasn't until I let go of who I thought I was that I was able to create a complete new life. It was until I let go of the life I thought I should have that I was able to embrace the life that was waiting for me. I know that my real strength never comes from my body, and although my physical capability has changed dramatically, who I am is unchanged. The pilot life inside of me was still alive, just as is in each and every one of us. I know that I'm not my body, and I also know that you are not yours. And then it no longer matter what you do like, where you come from, or what you do for a living. All that matters is that we continue to fan the flame of humanity by living our life as the ultimate creative expression of who we really are. Because we are all connected by the millions and millions through. And it's time to join those up and to head on. And if we are moved toward our collective bliss, it's time we should all focus on the physical and instead embrace the virtue of the heart. So rest your straw if you will join me. Thank you. Thank you.